Black Elk speaks about the massacre at Wounded Knee, December 29th, 1890. This did not just happen. It was because the U.S. Army was trying to force the Sioux people who had left the reservation to do a religious practice called the ghost dance back onto the reservation. This is Black Elk. Black Elk was an Ogallala Lakota Sioux man living in South Dakota. He was a second cousin of the war leader Crazy Horse. He was born in 1863 and lived until 1950. That means he was 13 years old when the Battle of Little Bighorn happened, and he was there. He was 27 years old when the massacre at Wounded Knee Creek happened, and he was there. His story of what he saw, heard, and did is what you will now see and hear. These are his words as he told them to a writer who made a book called Black Elk Speaks. That evening, December 28th, 1890, before it happened, I went into Pine Ridge near Wounded Knee Creek and heard these things. And while I was there, soldiers started for where the Bigfoot's people were at Wounded Knee. Bigfoot was a leader. These made about 500 soldiers that were there next morning. When I saw them starting, I felt that something terrible was going to happen. In the morning, I went out after my horses, and while I was out, I heard shooting off toward the east, and I knew from the sound that it must be wagon guns, cannons, going off. When I reached camp with the horses, a man rode up to me and said, "Hey, hey, hey, the people are fired on. I know it." I saddled up my buckskin and put on my sacred shirt. It was one I had made to be worn by no one but myself. The Sioux had a special religious ceremony called the ghost dance, where they believed would give them special powers and make the white soldiers go away, their ancestors come back from the dead, and the buffalo would return. I painted my face all red, and in my hair I put one eagle feather for the one above. It did not take me long to get ready, for I could still hear the shooting over there. I started out alone on the old road that ran across the hills to Wounded Knee. I had no gun. I carried only the sacred bow of the West that I had seen in my great vision. I had gone only a little way when a band of young men came galloping after me. The first two who came up were Love's War and Iron Washoe. I asked what they were going to do, and they said they were just going to see where the shooting was. Then others were coming up, and some older men. We rode fast, and there were about 20 of us now. The shooting was getting louder. A horseback from over there came galloping very fast toward us and said, "Hey, hey, hey, they have murdered him." Bigfoot, the leader. Bigfoot, the Sioux leader. We stopped on the ridge not far from where the head of the dry gulch wagon guns, machine guns, were still going off over there on the little hill. And they were going off again where they hit along the gulch. Look at the red arrow in the picture. There was much shooting down yonder, and there were many cries, and we could see cavalrymen scattered over the hills ahead of us. Cavalrymen were riding along the gulch and shooting into it, where the women and children were running away and trying to hide in the gullies and the stunted, short pines. A little way ahead of us, just below the head of the dry gulch, there were some women and children who were huddled under a clay bank, and some cavalrymen were pointing guns at them. We stopped back behind the ridge, and I said to the others, "Take courage. These are our relatives. We'll try to get them back." Then we all sang a song which went like this: "A thunder being nation I am, I have said. A thunder being nation I am, I have said. You shall live, you shall live, you shall live, you shall live." Picture of a thunder being. Then I rode over the ridge, and the others after me, and were crying, "Take courage, it's time to fight." The soldiers who were guarding our relatives shot at us and then ran away fast, and some more cavalrymen on the other side of the gulch did too. We got our relatives and sent them across the bridge to the northwest, where they would be safe. I had no gun, and when we were charging, I just held the sacred bow out in front of me with my right hand. The bullets did not hit us at all. We found a little baby lying all alone near the head of the gulch. I could not pick her up just then, but I got her later, and some of my people adopted her. I just wrapped her up tighter in a shawl that was around her and left her there. It was a safe place, and I had other work to do. By now, many other Lakotas who had heard the shooting were coming up from Pine Ridge, and we all charged on the soldiers. They ran east toward where the trouble began. We followed down along the dry gulch, and what we saw was terrible. There were two little boys at one place in the gulch. They had guns and they had been killing soldiers all by themselves. We could see the soldiers they had killed. The boys were all alone there, and they were not hurt. These were brave little boys.